Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, happy Friday. Let's go. Well, a lot of moves are being made before the man even takes office. We knew who his entire cabinet, or at least the appointees, were going to be before Thanksgiving even rolled around. Now he's continuing to put butts in seats. And some of the things that we like to keep an eye on here at WBAP, we love your gun rights. We're big fans of guns and all those types. And so a lot of your rights are going to be decided by the next guy who runs the ATF. But my first guest is going to help me break this down. This is Dave Workman from the Second Amendment Foundation, also a journalist and senior editor of thegunmag.com. Seems like a perfect guy to ask about this. What do we know? Do we have an ATF appointee yet?
Not that I'm aware of, but my guess is that Mr. Trump is going to focus on somebody who, let's hope, knows something about firearms. Steve Dettelbach just has been, and I'll be polite, he's been kind of a disappointment in that arena. He was appointed by Joe Biden to run the ATF. He certainly has helped weaponize that agency against dealers and law-abiding gun owners, and that's the consensus of gun owners all over the map out there. So they're hopeful that Trump is going to find somebody who does have an honest-to-God background in firearms and who understands the law. And there have been a few names kicked around that I'm not really familiar with, so this is going to shake out over the next few weeks, I think.
Yeah, and some of the names, I only recognize one of them, Brandon Herrera, and that's just because I see him on Twitter/X, and he seems like a guy that's kind of closer toward my heart, who thinks the ATF shouldn't even exist. I mean, it seems like such a weird mutant agency to begin with, because why are we putting a Coors Light with a cigarette with a gun? Like, I don't understand how these things mix. Why are they all in the same agency?
Well, I don't know. You probably are just like me. You've seen that meme going around that alcohol, tobacco, and firearms ought to be the name of a store someplace.
Classic joke, but it makes a good point. Yes.
Yeah, and I've never quite understood that myself. Historically, I think the ATF was where Elliot Ness came from, and he was able to go after Al Capone on tax charges. But this whole idea that you need to disband the ATF, I'm not so sure that's as good an idea as reforming that agency and making darn sure that they stick to what they're supposed to be doing, and that is regulating not just firearms but explosives and alcohol and tobacco. You know, the tax stuff. Right now, it seems like all they're trying to do is run around the countryside, really entrapping small dealers, entrapping law-abiding citizens, and that's a big complaint out there. And of course, we have the history of Fast and Furious, which I covered for over 2 years as a journalist, and that was a train wreck. That just goes to show you that any federal agency that gets a little offline can go way offline in a big hurry.
Well, where does the Second Amendment Foundation stand on some of the infringements that some people rightfully criticize that we have already? Background checks, gun registration, having there be a big database that you have to tap into before you can have your gun rights. Where do y'all stand on that?
Well, background checks are fairly popular with the whole country. You know, we've seen the polling data. I don't know that background checks have really prevented any criminal from getting a gun, because as you and I both know, criminals don't go to Joe's gun shop to buy a firearm. They'll get a gun from Joe's Midnight Guns on the corner of Fifth and Elm somewhere. They don't bother with waiting periods. They don't bother with any of that stuff. And I think that's where Congress and even state legislatures have gone completely bugwump out there. They think that background checks are going to prevent criminals from getting firearms. And nothing is further from the truth. The data shows that criminals who have been convicted, they're convicted felons. They show up in police reports frequently. This guy was in illegal possession of a firearm. So what's going on there? Well, obviously, a background check never entered into that transaction because he got it from somebody who stole it. And a lot of guns, whether they like to admit it or not, are stolen from police officers, people who leave their guns in cars, which is a big problem around the holiday time. We've seen videos on TV of smash and grabs where somebody will drive a stolen car through the front end of a gun store, go in and load up, and then be gone in 2 or 3 minutes.
Hey, real quick, Dave Workman, I only have like a minute left. Sure. Ghost guns are something that are expected to be addressed in the next administration. I think the advent of ghost guns, people being able to 3D print the most of the gun, puts the idea of gun registration, not like, how we've got to find some way to register these. No, we've got to just stop with the registration. It's now the cat's out of the bag. Registration means nothing now that ghost guns exist. Your thoughts?
Well, I can't disagree with that. Again, I'm not so sure finding a gun with a serial number has ever led to the solving of a crime. I've never seen a story that said, the authorities got the serial number, and they were able to track down the bad guy. Like I said before, bad guys don't go to gun shops to buy guns that have serial numbers on them.
Well, even if they do, they just file it off. How many times do you see the report where they found a gun at the scene, but the serial number had been filed off, so that's a dead end?
I know. Well,
what
as Jay Leno used to say, how stupid is that?
Right. So, all right, well, how do they find your work online, David Workman?
Okay, I'm at thegunmag.com. I'm the editor-in-chief now. You'll find me at Liberty Park Press. I'm at AmmoLand News. I do a monthly column in Guns Magazine on Second Amendment defense. So you can find me all over the place.
All right, there he is. Dave Workman, thank you for being on the James Show.
Oh, you bet.
All right, coming up next, we got to get into the couple big headlines of the day. First, if you have any comments on what I just said, I know some people think that's just wild. They just turned on talk radio for the first time. They're like, people want to repeal background checks? Yeah, a lot of us do. If you have an issue with that or you want to ask me a little more details, 800-288-9227. But coming up next, I'm going to play for you Dan Bongino's explanation on how the United Health CEO assassin isn't a professional hit job, as now the manhunt for his assassin goes into day 3. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 98.3. Welcome to the big show. So we have the manhunt for the CEO assassin entering. We're now in day 3 here. This is weird. I did not think we would be here at this point, but as more and more info starts to come out, I don't want to say I'm enjoying this, but normally I'm not into forensics as much as most of the country. It blows my mind that like 4 of the top 10 shows are like Cold Case or Law and Order, or Dateline, or everyone's trying to solve mysteries over here. I'm usually not into that, but this one's interesting. We have a guy who, at my first glance, I'm like, well, this has to be a professional hit job. He goes up there. He knows where the guy's going to be. And he doesn't catch him in the public place. He catches him in transit. He catches him outside the hotel where he's staying. Not at the shareholders meeting where he was going to speak about an hour later. So he had some like inside info. I mean, and he's dressed and he's covered and doesn't leave any evidence, gets the hell out of there, manages to escape without anybody jumping on him. No one tackled the guy. Because here in Texas, he back and he wouldn't have made it to Central Park or the Katy Trail or whatever the equivalent would be. But no, in New York City, there's not a whole lot of alpha males left up there. So, oh my goodness, there's a dangerous man. Let's get out of the way. And so they all just get out of the way and they let him run off into Central Park and boom, he's gone. So my thinking on this, though, has changed dramatically as we learn more and more and more. First, the fact that he left shell casings at the scene that had something written in them. Well, that's not that's someone who has an agenda. Someone's trying to send a message at least. And that's not what a professional hit job looks like. And I've investigated no crimes in my life. I've never been a cop. I've been a computer programmer, a radio host, and a bunch of manual labor jobs. So the other evidence that starts to come out where they're retracing his steps and you get to see his face at a Starbucks. Why? It's the bane of existence for every man. He was sitting on a chick. He was getting chatted up by a cute girl. It looks like she asked to see his face because I don't hear the audio, but there's like the gesture like, hey, can I see your face? So he pulls it down. He's got a big old grin on his face. And if I shave my beard, that's what I look like, actually. He kind of looks a lot like me. But then we find some other sloppy facets to it. As we're learning now, he came to New York City like 2 weeks prior to the shooting. And he came on a bus from Atlanta. And so they're retracing his steps. And I think they're going to eventually get to the bottom of this mystery. But I really like hearing people who know more than me about these things. Dan Bongino, how amazing was it to be able to hear his shows after the Trump shooting? Because he used to work presidential details. He's former Secret Service. Is there anyone with more insight who can tell you what a hard car is or the sack of the detail or what these little terms mean? And then here we go again, Dan Bongino, who also spent a big chunk of his career chasing down criminals like this and finding killers and assassins. And so when Dan Bongino says it means a little bit more. Now, I took this segment from his show yesterday where he's chasing rabbits all over the place, and it was 6, almost 7 minutes, and I got it down to 3.5. There's a lot of editing in here, but I left you with the meat and no bone.
I don't think this was a professional. I'm going to tell you why. It appears either he was using some weapon he had not practiced with and it attached a suppressor to without properly testing it out, and that's why the cycle didn't slide, the slide didn't cycle, or he was using ammunition maybe not suited towards the firearm, subsonic, and didn't have enough gas pressure. Is this too wonky? Am I like boring you guys with this? It's important because there's a whole bunch of internet sleuths out there, some of them are very good, who've been way ahead of the mainstream media on this. And it speaks to a bigger story, how the news now is on X. But there are a couple things. So I don't think the weapon jammed. It may have been either a hand load, subsonic ammo. Jeremy just says he's using subsonic, which does not have the gas pressure to rack it, needs piston driven for the G44. You see, this is like the greatest thing. This is social media. It's happening in live time. People interacting with me on the show. The news is already 24 hours behind the story. But a couple things indicate to me this wasn't a professional. If, and I'm saying if, so caution here. If the guy went to the Starbucks before, like is circulating around in the news, and wrote on the shell casings, what was it, deny, defy, the 3 words, the title of the insurance book. Folks, professionals don't do that. Professionals don't leave any clues if they don't have to. Professional hitmen and assassins. What would you know about assassins? Gee, I don't know. 12 years in the Secret Service, that's all we study. Professional assassins, Jim, if they want to send a message, you know how they send a message? You have any idea? They assassinate you. They don't write manifestos and they don't write on the rounds. They don't. And some people pointed to the fact that he's very cool and calm and collected while unloading these 3 shots into this guy's back. Well, folks, I've interviewed many people over the course of my time in law enforcement who I've seen videos of them committing crimes in the exact same manner. And you know why they do it that way? Because they're sociopaths and psychopaths. So they're just cool, calm, and collected because they're crazy. It doesn't mean they're professional hitmen. I'm not sure this was a professional. I think it may turn out later that there was some, it wouldn't be a leap of faith to say that there was some type of insurance gripe this subject may have had. I'll tell you another reason why. Folks, professionals don't leave clues behind. Folks, there are cameras all over Manhattan, everywhere. Not everywhere. No, everywhere. Between Ring doorbells, private businesses, NYPD cameras, and other cameras, transit system cameras, there are cameras everywhere. If you're a professional hitman, you don't leave clues behind, number one. Number two, you don't do it in Manhattan, where all they're going to do is reverse engineer the camera footage and find you in a Starbucks. What do I mean by that? This is why I know they know who the January 6th pipe bomber is, and they won't tell you. Folks, when you're in a city like D.C. or Manhattan and New York City, what they do is they get you at the crime scene. You've seen the video. Say you ran down the block and turned left. All they do is pull every single camera from the businesses and the street cameras. Then they trace you to the next block and then the next block. And sooner or later, yes, they'll catch you coming out of a hotel, an Uber, a Starbucks. A professional doesn't do that. A professional follows the guy. I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but it's fairly obvious. You ever see like that movie, The Accountant or whatever? They just catch you while you're fishing out on a lake. You don't do it in Manhattan. I really believe that this assassin, and I think it'll come out in the coming days, was not a professional, but is someone with some personal involvement.
All right, so that was Dan Bongino. You heard it on WBAP yesterday if you were listening before my show. And if you weren't listening to him before my show, you better not be listening to anybody else. You better not just be listening to some other station. We need every listener we can get. But I'm convinced this guy isn't a professional, but he's also not an idiot. When his gun jammed, he wasn't like a buffoon, like, well, I guess I'm going to have to run now. No, he cleared it, got a couple more shots off. I think he had to clear it twice. And then the escape. He had the foresight to have a plan to get to the e-bike, to get into Central Park to where he could change his clothes and then leave Central Park on foot and just be what? Unnoticed? Or, he might have left on the e-bike as well. So the escape shows that, okay, he's not a pro in the fact that it's just going to be a hitman that was paid to go do something clean. He's leaving evidence. There's a little bit of slop in there. So he's not a buffoon, but he's not a professional. Or if he was a professional, is he like leaving breadcrumbs just to throw people off the scent, like writing on the gun shell casings? I do think that you've noticed some of the reaction from our Team Blue neighbors is kind of chilling. You know, they're like, yay, killed one of them evil CEOs. Look, even if he was denying care, and there's no doubt that an insurance company denies care, denies paying for stuff, that's kind of their job. They're really just they're operating in very narrow rules that the government set. I have very little animus for insurance company CEOs. They don't get to write their own policies. They don't get to determine who gets them. They don't get to determine if you have pre-existing conditions or when do you cut them off. Or they're just following along a very tight system of boundaries. And it's not really their fault that their company's so evil and does such a poor job. The real backstop, the real people you should be mad at, are the people who regulated and distorted the insurance industry into the mutant it's become. 800-288-9227. Do you think we'll ever get the story behind this guy? We don't know who did the January 6th pipe bombs. We don't know who left coke in the White House. We don't know anything about the Trump shooter from July. We don't know the motive behind the Vegas shooter. Will we ever get the story behind the United Health CEO assassin? Coming up next, I'll ask a former NYPD Lieutenant Commander Joe Cardinale's coming back on the James Show. We'll ask him. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, happy Friday, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah. So, strangely, the manhunt for the guy who assassinated the CEO of the largest private healthcare company in the country is in day 3. I did not think it would make it to day 3. I did not know you could just go squeeze out some rounds in the middle of Midtown Manhattan and somehow find your way back to obscurity. My next guest might have some strong opinions on that because he used to work for the NYPD. Joe Cardinale's back on the James Show. Joe, are you surprised we haven't caught this guy yet?
No, I'm not surprised at all. Sometimes these things take a little time to put together. You know, this is something that he planned in advance. So he planned his escape. He had 10 days, according to latest reports, that he was in that hostel up by Amsterdam Avenue. So, he had time to plan this thing. And right now they're putting all the pieces together. The fact that they have those new photographs with a full face, it's a side glance, but you could still get a good portion of his face in when he's smiling. That's key because somebody's going to recognize this individual and put a name to the face. And then things could start moving a lot easier. When you identify somebody who may have prints on file, may have some DNA someplace, they're actually using the coroner's office for that right now. The DA,
they got a DNA sample from like a water bottle or something, right?
It might be, it may be just a water bottle. I know he went to Starbucks, and then there's another footage of him discarding something over to an area where there's recyclables. We don't know if they were picked up or not. It could be something from the hospital as well, or it might be both, and they want to compare the two to make sure they have the same person. So they're doing everything, making sure that everything is done methodically and by the book. So this way, when they do apprehend him, all right, they have a great case against him.
Well, this would be historic because it'd be the first time in human history a recycling bin was used for something useful. It actually served a purpose. So your thoughts on whether or not, on whether or not this guy is a pro?
He's not a pro. He's far from a pro. He's somebody he's calculating. I'll give him that. All right. He's calculating. I still don't like a lot of components that they're putting out there saying that this is not random. The fact that he put took the time to engrave those words onto the ammunition, and whether it be a spent round or a live round that just was ejected. If you notice, he's ejecting each one. All right, and that's not a silencer; that's a suppressor on there. And what happens is it doesn't chamber enough gas to make the slide go back. So he's manually chambering these rounds. So he knew he was going to leave evidence there. So that's number two. But for him to turn around and do all these things, he's not a pro, all right? He's not a pro, but he is somebody who's calculating, and he's stone cold, and he's probably a narcissist as well.
Yeah, so he's a sociopath or psychopath of some sort. But then, look, there's such a weird juxtaposition here because I imagine if this happened in our neighborhood, someone would have jumped on this guy and tackled him like Daniel Penny style. But here we are in the middle of discouraging Good Samaritans intervening in dangerous situations. I mean, isn't there a place for like a good guy, an armed citizen or unarmed citizen to stop this guy? Are you surprised like the American people just let him go?
No, in New York, a lot of people take matters into their hands and they stop things from going on. If you look at the film, the footage from this, he executes Mr. Thompson. And he casually walks away, goes up an alleyway. He pre-planned all this, Now they're speaking about possibly in that backpack he had a change of clothes and he went to the park. Central Park is a large location.
Yep.
And I'm sure they're going through that as well. Somebody mentioned divers today. So maybe somebody got a report from the tips line that somebody discarded something in the lake and they can pinpoint the spot where they did. Maybe they can retrieve something from there. But you have to understand this individual, whoever he is, came up from Atlanta on a Greyhound, used a fake Jersey ID, went into a hostel, spent 10 days there. But the question still begs to be asked. How did he know that Mr. Thompson would be walking by the Hilton at that time to go to his, this is 6:45 in the morning, all right, and he's going to pre-set up the meeting that he's hosting, all right? How did this individual know he was going to walk by there? Did Mr. Thompson do this for the past 2 days that he was there? Or did this person have intimate knowledge of this and knew to be there for some reason, whatever? So I had come up, with something on my own that I think, I'm not saying it's on my own. A lot of people think this too. It's something that could be back, followed him from Minnesota, whether it be via going to Atlanta and coming up, we don't know. But this is some kind of knowledge. Some people say it was common knowledge. not common knowledge. He didn't follow him because the witness said that he was standing there. This individual was standing there for quite some time,
Okay.
and he saw him lurking about.
What about the idea that it's a business rival? Maybe someone else was up to get CEO, and then all of a sudden this guy swoops in and takes what some other guy thinks is rightfully his. And we know like only 2% of the population is a sociopath or a psychopath, but like 20% of Fortune 500 CEOs are sociopaths. So I mean, could this be another guy who's hiring this guy, and they're doing the engraving thing to try and throw him off the scent, so they don't think it's an inside job, so they don't think it's a professional?
It could be anything at this stage of the game, but the more they get the pieces put to the puzzle, put into place, I mean, it could be just somebody who had a loved one that was denied a claim and died as a result of it. I mean, he used the word of depose instead of delay. All right. If you notice that, so depose, can that be that somebody should have been deposed for a civil suit? Who knows? And it could be to throw somebody off. But they're going to do a victimology on Mr. Thompson. They're going to delve into his personal life. They're going to go into the home computers and everything else that he has to see, if they were bona fide threats. There were threats that were made, according to the wife. And we don't know the extent of those threats. We don't know what his personal life is going to reveal. All right, so you do have to do a full victimology and put it together with what happened and then put a rhyme or reason to it. But you'll have a better rhyme or reason when you know who you're dealing with.
All right, Joe, we got to run, but now that the election cycle's over, what are you promoting these days?
Oh, I'm still in the political game right now. Would you believe they're still counting? They're still counting. So we're waiting for that to be over with. And then I have some plans for the future. We'll see what takes me over the next couple of years.
Well, it's a good time to be talking to a former NYPD cop, so I appreciate your time, sir.
Anytime, my friend. You take care and have a great holiday if I don't speak to you, all right?
Thank you. That's Joe Cardinale on The James Show yet again. If you have any theories on what is going on, Manhunt Day 3 of the United Health CEO, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Your theories are welcome. Coming up next, though, it should not be taking this long for the Supreme Court to uphold a ban on sterilizing children. And then at the same time, on Verdict Watch, the jury came back deadlocked on the Daniel Penny case, and the judge sent them back saying, no, y'all need to get it together. Details coming up on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Happy Friday. Listen, good news. Over at blessedbethefruit.org, we now have some 3X and 4XL back in stock. So that's good news. When we opened up you got to get your FEMA gowns if you're a single woman of childbearing age. We almost immediately ran out of 2X, 3X, and 4XL. But we've got some more back in the store. So if you'd like to go ahead and find out where your camp's going to be. Register your womb with the National Christian Uterine Database, and you can get some great discounts with your registration card on great things like Meow Mix and kitchen utensils and, I don't know, hair clippers or something. Go to blessedbethefruit.org. And the fun part is I get to watch website traffic, and I get to see when it spikes up and whatnot over just totally made up website. So a couple top stories of the day. I'm surprised we still don't know who this assassin is for the United Health CEO. My thinking on this has changed, and from thinking this was a pro into, okay, it's probably not a pro, but a lot of people would have a motive to kill this guy. Who did it? Why? What the heck's going on? Why don't we know by now? Will we ever know? 800-288-9227. Let's ask Roy in Dallas. You're on WBAP. What do you think, Roy?
Blessed be the fruit, my brother. This is a crime of passion. There's several clues that point it out. We know he's not a professional. We've already eliminated that.
Okay.
It's not a disgruntled person that didn't get a claim, because we got pictures of the guy smiling. A person that goes out to do this is mad, walks out of the house mad. They're mad when they do it. They're mad after they do it. They're not going around smiling, and they're not stomping for coffee.
Not if he's a sociopath or a psychopath. But if he's an empath, if he doesn't have that basic human connection that most of us share, then yeah, they separate that out. And in fact, his smile's not even a real smile. This is his attempt to manipulate the person next to him for usually immediate gratification of some sort.
Well, I can guarantee you there's two ununiformed officers following the wife, because they believe at some point she's going to meet back up with this younger, good-looking guy. And, they talked about it for the last year. They've been seeing each other. He wrote the things on the bullets to throw people off the scent that it was him or the wife, making them think it had something to do with insurance.
Well,
and I guarantee you, when they asked the wife, is there anybody that hates your husband or that's mad at your husband? And she came up with we've been getting threats. The next question was, well, did you notify the police? And I promise you the answer is no, we didn't, because there weren't any threats. She said that to throw them off her trail.
Okay, so the guy who got shot's 50, 54, I think it was what it was. And so I look at the pictures, and granted, this is a very shallow take on this. She doesn't look like she's a whole lot younger than he is. Now, this guy the shooting looks like he's in his 20s. So did she have a much younger boyfriend?
Oh, yeah. Definitely the cougar situation, and a much younger guy and good-looking fella, and husband's ignoring her and all of this stuff. And it's been going on. It's been going on for a while. That's how the boyfriend knew about the book that he's read, and, to write that on the casings and stuff like that. They've been together a while.
Okay.
She's been telling him for a long time now, if he wasn't around, we could be together.
Well, also, if he can be murdered like this and they throw off the scent, then she can inherit all this money. And not only can they be together, they can be together with millions, and we'll live off his millions. And he wasn't a good guy anyway. And all right, I'm not saying you're right. That is an interesting theory. And ladies, don't discount him because you think, why would a 26-year-old be interested in a 48-year-old? No.
The money, baby.
Well, I mean, money, one thing, but you don't know what 28-year-old guys think. And don't worry,
right.
you still look beautiful. All right.
Right.
Thanks for sharing the theory. I appreciate it, Roy. Now, that'd be a trip if Roy's right. We should mark this, because if it turns out to be the love child or the other man situation, then he's going to look like an absolute wizard. He's going to look like he has a time machine. All right, coming up next, we're going to have a retired ICE agent back on. He's been on a couple times. His name's Victor Avila. But I want to ask him about this idea that illegals may start self-deporting soon. Just the specter of a mass deportation effort, disincentivizes that, knowing that there's going to be more enforcement, knowing it's going to be a pain in the butt. And plus, we got some disappointing job numbers today anyway. Is part of this problem going to take care of itself? We'll talk about that coming up next. Also, Allison Krauss and Union Station featuring Jerry Douglas are coming to the Pavilion at Toyota Music Factory May 31st. For more information and tickets, go to livenation.com. But this is one of the many contests we're running right now. You text the word station to 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. You'll be entered in a contest to win a pair of tickets. Now, look, I know this is a metropolitan area, 8 million people. You'd be pleasantly surprised at how few people enter these contests. So if you text the word station, you got a pretty good chance here. 800-288-9227. We got to give them to somebody, and I'd rather you go see Allison Krauss for free at the Toyota Music Factory because you listen to my show. And if I have to bribe you to stick around, damn it, I will. All right, I am James Parker. This is The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. James Parker here for the Prize Picks app. Prize Picks is so fun, it can even make watching the Cowboys enjoyable again. That's how amazing this app is. It's salvaging my Cowboys season. And also, I've learned a couple other tips and tricks here that I'll pass along to you because you listen to the show and I want you to get some money out of it. When you go see a really small team that's against a really big team, like a team from New York, the people from New York will keep picking more and more and more and skewing the statistic into where it's really favorable for you. So if you want to just go undercut a bunch of Yankees, look at where they get a little too optimistic, pick less, and then when they fall short, you can get some money from these idiots. It's fantastic. I love the Prize Picks app. I didn't know it'd be this fun. I thought it was a regular just fantasy sports app, but it's a daily fantasy sports app. If you don't know what I mean, go check it out. And with your first $5 play, use promo code WBAP. I'll give you $50 in promo cash to play with, just so you can figure it out. So download the Prize Picks app, promo code WBAP, turn $5 into $50, and check it out for yourself. Prize Picks, run your game. Well, happy Friday, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, Trina, what's that guy's name? The new Customs Immigration Enforcement, whatever? Roger something or other. Victor Avila might know. Actually, my next guest is a retired ICE agent who's probably watching this closer than I am. We just got some new information. Another guy got nominated here by Trump to head up Customs and Immigration. Do you know this guy, Victor?
I sure do. Rodney Scott is a wonderful, wonderful guy. Actually spoke to him this morning, and he's ready to go. And he would be the commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, meaning he will oversee all of Border Patrol and those customs in the blue uniforms that are at port of entries and airports. So it's a big, big task. But he used to be the chief of the Border Patrol under President Trump. And I'll tell you one thing that Rodney Scott brings, and that brings integrity, hard work, and he is ready to make our country safer.
So what's the difference between the U.S. Border Patrol, the Customs and Border Protection, and ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement?
Great question. Very good question. And I'm glad you asked it because there's a lot of confusion. It's not a lot to focus on jurisdiction here, but duties. Because both ICE, HSI, and Customs and what we call CBP, obviously anything that has a nexus to the border, they have the jurisdiction to investigate that. But the main difference is that CBP, the Border Patrol agents, and the Customs inspectors at the ports of entry are interdictors. They're there to interdict, stop the flow of drugs, illegal immigration, or any illicit activity coming through the ports of entry or in between the ports of entry. ICE and HSI special agents are the investigators. Just think of them as the detectives that investigate those interdictions. Just like when the patrolman pulls you over and there's a big case, then they call the detectives in. Same thing here. HSI comes in and takes over the investigations. Now, the other side of ICE that you're going to be hearing a lot about is ERO, Enforcement Removal Operations, which is these ICE officers that all they do are looking for illegal aliens within the country, all over the country, and finding them, detecting them, and processing them for deportation.
So I guess you're a big fan of his stint as the chief of the Border Patrol. What'd you like about his job that he did under the Trump first term?
I'll tell you what he did. He didn't stand for when the Biden administration came in and what they were getting ready to do. And Rodney said, I'm not going to do it. And this is the type of people that we're dealing with. This is the kind of people that we need. And he was basically fired for all intents and purposes because he wasn't going to stand by and continue to follow the instructions of the Biden administration, knowing that it was illegal. And everything that they've done in the last 4 years is illegal with the CBP One app and the parole system and the asylum and all the craziness that we've seen. Rodney Scott said, I'm not going to participate in that, and that's what you call integrity.
Well, I saw a report from the Washington Examiner here just on the break. I was looking it up while Trina was giving me the update. He got let go in August of 2021 because he was against banning the term illegal alien. And so this guy got fired standing up for principle, and even though it's just a semantic thing, we know this guy's not going to be a go-along-to-get-along guy.
That's right. And that wasn't just that, believe me, but that was one of those things. Well, they started to change the language. How dare you use illegal alien? Well, illegal alien happens to be the legal term. If they want to change the legal terms, they need to go to Congress and change it because they're the ones that called it that in the Immigration and Nationality Act and the books that even I used. And before I was a special agent, I worked for the U.S. courts as a federal probation officer, and that's what we wrote in the reports. You had to write that because that was the legal term. It's not a derogatory term. It's just a term that identifies these individuals that have absolutely no permit. So this non-immigrant, non-U.S. citizen nonsense is what the Biden administration and this woke agenda has carried over even all the way to Border Patrol and how you referred it, meaning that, if you change the name, maybe it's not that bad. If you take the word illegal out of it, it's not that bad. And they try to normalize the illegal activity.
Well, how can you prosecute something if you refuse to call it illegal? So when we see a guy like this coming in and the record that he has, does this make the case for some illegals are going to start self-deporting because they see the writing on the wall?
Well, I hope so. I was actually with Tom Holman yesterday, our new border czar, and that's something that we talk a lot about. We actually don't know what percentage of those individuals are going to get that message, like you just said. And we hope that they do. We hope that they get it. And most importantly, so they can have the ability to come back and actually do it the right way. Because if we get to them and get deported, then they're going to be banned. And it doesn't matter if they have a U.S. Citizen child or they marry a U.S. citizen to try to get petitioned by those family members. It's not going to work because you're going to have either 10 or 20-year ban. And so there's going to be a process here. I'm not quite sure how. I'm sure they're talking about it, but I'm not sure quite what the process will be. But there will be a process for these individuals to be registered, to be captured on their way back, to say, okay, you gave up, you're telling us who you are, you're going back to your home country, and we'll put you in this category that you participate in the self-deportation process so we could take a look at you when you come back.
All right, what are you promoting these days, Victor Avila? We haven't mentioned your book in a long time.
Agent Under Fire. I just I gave some out at a function in Fort Worth. Even though the book is a little old now, it's 3 years old, first of all, you're going to learn about what happened to me in the line of duty, losing my partner and getting shot 3 times when we were assigned in Mexico. But most importantly, at the very end, you're going to get a pretty decent briefing of the border. And even though I wrote it 3 years ago, you think I wrote it yesterday. With the information that's in there, you're gonna see and hear terms and policies that you had never heard about, that no one ever talks about, that you will get a better picture. And as a matter of fact, a lot of the solutions that I put on there, I hope some of those are implemented under the Trump administration, because I think they'll make a big difference.
All right, find Agent Under Fire online. If you search for it, it's the first thing that pops up. Or if you can remember, agentunderfirebook.com. Thank you, Victor.
Thank you.
All right, breaking news here. The judge has dismissed the manslaughter charge after the jury got deadlocked in the Daniel Penny case. Mike Traina had mentioned that he is still on criminal negligent homicide charge, so he's not out of the woods yet. But the more severe of the 2 big charges that he was facing just went away. Good news. If you have any comments, 800-288-9227. Coming up next. Should the city of Dallas be owning old theaters and then spend millions of your tax dollars to renovate them? Or is this just a waste of money and we need to sell it back? Details coming up. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If you got any comments, feel free to jump in on the big show. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Now, in the background, I had a couple of seconds. Like there was a theory that was nominated. What was it? Was that Roy? The guy that said that he thinks the dude who killed the United Health CEO is the lover of his wife, and so she convinced this young man to go kill her husband so she can inherit his millions, and she doesn't have to live with him because she doesn't really like him anyway because she married him just for the money, but now she really cares for him. A couple other people have already signed on to that, and you know what? I had not heard that theory anywhere else. I heard it from a caller, and then I have a couple other people. We have our own train of thought over here on the James Show. We are independent critical thinkers. And whether or not we're right or wrong, it sure is fun to do this like knee-jerk speculation based on just hearsay and circumstantial evidence. We're way off out on a limb here, but it's a fun limb, and it might be right, and at least it's original. All right, for my next story here, we're going to go over to the Turtle Creek area, which is, I mean, I could probably walk to this theater from here. It might take a little bit, but in Turtle Creek, kind of hidden in some trees, and there's some bigger buildings around it. Place called the Kalita Theater. Do you know the Kalita Theater? Have you ever even heard of the Kalita Theater before this moment right now? Have you ever been to anything at the Kalita Theater? Garrett, you're from here. You ever been to any event at the Kalita Theater? Yeah, it's Turtle Creek. You don't know. It's fine if you don't know. Kalita Theater is in the news now because it needs some repairs. And of the 1.2 bazillion or whatever bonds that we just voted into debt on here in Dallas, about 9 million of that is going to go to some repairs, but that's not going to be enough. This is a theater that was built in 1959. It was built for the Dallas Theater Center. They turned over ownership to the city, and now the city leases the theater back to the Dallas Theater Center. And it seems to be the worth that it brings in will not cover the cost of continuing to maintain this building, which it's an old building. Look, you had a good run there. It's like 65 years old. And so why don't we just like either tear this thing down or find some other accommodations or maybe sell it off to the private sector, because the Dallas Theater Center doesn't really need this. There's other theaters that they have in their pocket that they could be using. The headquarters for the Dallas Theater moved to the new AT&T Performing Arts, whatever awesome thing that we have over here off Woodall Rogers, which I can almost hit with a rock from our studios. Problem is, or for some people, this is the feature. For me, it's a flaw. This is the only theater in the world that was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. Oh, man, damn it. Who cares? Well, a lot of people who pretend like they're into such things care. What it's really is an excuse to take money from you and give it to some friends of politicians, some of which is going to be money laundered right back into their donations and their coffers and their parties and their whatnot. All to keep this theater going. Do we need it? Absolutely not. Is this essential to the city of Dallas when we don't have enough money to hire all the cops? We're on the hook to hire like 800 more cops because of these propositions that just passed last month. We don't need $9 million going to the Kalita Humphreys Theater. I don't care if Frank Lloyd Wright designed it. I don't care if John the Baptist designed it. We just who cares? It has smooth round walls. Wow, what a gift. Now give me my money back. I mean, the whole idea of live theater is sort of a contracting business ever since, I don't know, radio was invented, and then TV was invented, and then we have cable and HBO and satellite and Netflix, and no one's going to the theater. These are money-losing projects. This is just for the vanity and the amusement of the elites. We all have to pay for it. Why? So we can fund a bunch of people who probably fundamentally think that you're a Nazi and Hitler. I come from the theater world. I was a theater kid in high school, but I've been in showbiz. I know it doesn't sound like it because I'm on talk radio, but I'm surrounded by all these people. When you see the people on the news, and I'm not making fun of like WFAA or Fox 4 or whatever, you think the people on the news, they're like Alex P. Keaton from Family Ties. No, these are the theater kids you went to high school with. They're dressing in costume. They're wearing makeup. They're reading a script. These are not well thought out intellectual individuals. These are theater kids. They're not that much different than the people at the Kalita Humphreys Theater. And look, it's nice if you can make a living doing showbiz, but the demand for people who want to be in showbiz far outstrips the supply or the demand of people who are willing to buy tickets. So either some of these people are going to have to go get real jobs, or we can just take money from you and give it to them so they can do something that they love. These vanity projects are dumb. I don't know which one makes me madder, this or Dart. Like, all I want for Christmas is Dart to be disbanded, but I would also like to sell back all the theaters and the parks and all these other little museums and crap that we own. Put them back to the public, to the private sphere. Either sell them outright or sell them to a nonprofit. Sell them to a charity. Give them to Goodwill or something. But do we really need to be spending millions and millions of your dollars if we don't have enough? If we are so tight on money, we had to take on $1.2 billion worth of debt last month. You tell me why I should give a crap if Frank Lloyd Wright made this theater and we need to keep spending your money on it. Cost of living's not high enough for you? Your rent's not high enough? Your taxes aren't high enough? Let's keep around a theater that no one goes to, that you've never been to, because it was touched by the only architect any of us have ever heard of. It's not a good excuse to waste my money. It's not a good excuse to waste your money. Can we stop this now? And can somebody in the media stop acting like every one of these projects is a great idea? Oh, it's going to be so good, preserving the culture and the arts. No, I'd rather have money than a theater in the round in Turtle Creek. Give me my money back. Do I have to go tear down that theater myself? Because I'll go do it for a lot less than $9 million, and we can just get rid of this project forever. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Akbar says over here on Facebook, the Kalita Humphreys Theater looks like a dump. Tear it down. Damn it. Man after my own heart. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. It's not even that nice of a theater. It's got some curved walls. We have to maintain it forever. No, we don't. Sell it, or me and Akbar will go tear it down ourselves. Just give me a couple sledgehammers, maybe a big truck. All right, my next guest, returning to the James Show, Dr. G's back on. Laura, I'm going to try and say your name. Gabayan? Which one was it?
It's a hard name. Just say Dr. G. It's probably easier. Laura Gabayan.
See, I said it right the second time. And look, next time I'll say it right. We'll still call you Dr. G, but I enjoy being able to pronounce foreign words. So, well, let's talk about this survey here. I'm concerned about the youngest workers among us. Gen Z's now creeping into the workforce, and a survey shows that there's negative stereotypes associated with their generation that are having a negative effect on their careers. Oh, boo-hoo, Dr. G.
So Gen Z is actually not our youngest, but it's actually the one workforce that is very different than all of us. It's had the internet and social media its entire life, and it grew up with it. So technology is part of their identity. And so they're different. They're very different. And workers, employers view them as different. And we all have a natural negativity bias. And I can explain what the problems are. People assume this generation is not as patient, and they're more lazy, and they have different skills than they do. But I think we can benefit from all of this.
Well, look, the reason why I feel very little sympathy for Generation Z is not the fact that there is negative stereotypes associated with them. It might even negatively affect them in the workplace. But there's two reasons it's fair. Number one is some of those negative stereotypes are earned. And for the other reason is, well, when I got into the workplace, there was negative stereotypes about people in Generation X. It's like, oh, you don't even remember having to ration your food during World War II, or you don't even remember what it's like before you had television. It's like, no, I don't. And so I think every generation gets accused of being spoiled by their elders.
Maybe. I'm a Generation Xer as well. But I think with this generation, they're just very different than all of us. And I think we have to think, okay, so they're different. We all have a natural negativity bias. I recently wrote a book about wisdom, and I defined wisdom as 8 elements. And my 4th element was spirituality. And Generation
I'm sorry,
Z,
what was that last word? It sounds like you said habituality.
Spirituality. I'm sorry if I slur my speech because I have a lot of health issues. And so my 4th element was spirituality, and this generation really seems like they care about things. They put their heart into whatever it is they pursue. They may not be as patient because they're used to technology, but they really want to do the right thing. They don't care about how much money they make. They care more about what it is that they're doing. So I think employers should look more deeply at how they can benefit them and how they can, be a part of their team a different way. And they are the workforce that will take over. I mean, they're in their 20s now, low 20s. They're going to take over. Right now they constitute over 30% of the workforce, so they will take over.
Well, one thing that I really liked about my generation versus like the baby boomer generation is how if there was a new piece of technology that was introduced, Gen X was so used to it, we'd be like, okay, I don't know that, but I can figure it out. And our elders would be like, well, I don't know how to download an app, or I don't know how to do that. And then the millennials brought that back. If they weren't specifically trained in it, they act like, well, this is beyond my training. How can I be expected to know this? And I get the feeling that Gen Z, if you just throw a task at them and they kind of have that attitude, that Gen X had is, I'll figure it out. Just whatever you want me to do, just let me know, and I'll figure out how to do it. Has that been your observation?
I looked at the research, and it has been that they're more do-yourselfers. There are people who do like to figure things out. So you're right.
Yeah, I think Gen X and Gen Z get along, but Gen X likes to stay out of all the headlines. We don't mind that we're not in the headlines, or no one surveys us or gives a crap what we think about at the workplace. We just I prefer it like this. I like flying under the radar, and I think that would be my next advice to Gen Z. Like, don't even get caught up in these things. Just kind of fly under the radar. Don't gripe. Do your job. Go home.
And be a hard worker. Ultimately, that's what we care about. We want someone to be part of our team that is happy and works hard.
All right, Dr. G, how do they find your work online?
Common Wisdom is the book I wrote, and I have a website, lauragabayan.com. So, but if people forget my name, because I have a hard one, they can always go to thewisdomresearchproject.com. And that's how I found my 6 GYs individuals, and that leads to my website.
There you go. Dr. Laura G., thanks for being on the James Show again.
Of course, thanks for having me.
All right, coming up in my next segment, I'm going to have to follow up because I just mentioned something in passing on a previous show, and then I had a back and forth on Facebook having to explain my position where I had mentioned that Social Security, we got to get rid of that. And it's not that I just want to yank the rug out from under everyone who's on Social Security. It's that, it's going bust. In about 6 or 7 years, the trust fund's running out. Your benefits are going to get cut by 22% as it stands right now, but it'll probably be more like 25% by the time we get there. I'm not trying to rob the bank. I'm the guy who's showing up and tell you the vault's already bare. Someone robbed it before we showed up, and now we're just dealing with the consequences. But I'll explain a little more in detail coming up in about 4 minutes on the James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I'm going to pull back the curtain and just share a conversation I had with a listener like you earlier this week. Really, most of it was yesterday. I just mentioned in passing like a few of the big anvils that are hanging over our head as the American empire decides if we're going to throw off the shackles of empire and continue to grow, or if we're just going to collapse under our own weight. And I pointed out Social Security's got to go away. Now, Social Security, if you want to get theoretical or philosophical about it, there's no doubt in my mind that it's unconstitutional. It's not what the founding fathers had in mind. And if you want to have a old age pension system that's built on the taxpayer's back, you would at the most be able to have that discussion at the state level, not at federal level. That aside, I've already lost that argument years ago. It was created 80 years ago now, 90 years ago now. And so forget it. We'll even skip that part. I'm looking at the pragmatic aspect of it now, and the fact that it's going to go bust in about 6 years. And when I say go bust, it's not like it's going to zero out and no one's going to get anything. But the trust fund and the IOUs in there are running out. They say in 7 years, but every time we come out with these reports, it gets moved up. So let's say 6 years, maybe even 5 years. Now, what happens there is your benefit, those who are receiving benefits, are going to be adjusted to the ratio of whatever the income can support. So the Social Security taxes, whatever they're paying into the trust fund, you're going to get about a 22, as it stands right now, 22, maybe 25% haircut on what you're currently getting. So for a lot of people, the concern that, well, if you get rid of Social Security, then people aren't going to be able to afford their standard of living. They're not going to be able to afford their apartment or their home, or they're going to have to move in with their kids, or they're going to have to get roommates, or they're going to have to go into a group home or rely on charity. That's already coming. I'm not the bad guy taking Social Security away. I'm not going to a program that's good and working and solvent and sustainable and taking it away from anybody. I'm just pointing out Social Security is going to meet the same fate of all other defined benefit programs like pensions. It's got to go away. It's mathematically impossible for it to continue in its current form. And you can fight against me, you can holler at me, you can tell me the common thing is you don't understand or you don't know what you're talking about, which is never a very convincing argument. It doesn't matter what you think. It's already a dead program. It's just a matter of time. And so when you actually look at what was promised versus what it is, the whole thing's been a lie. It was sold to you as an old age insurance program, and it quite quickly just immediately turned into the biggest socialist Ponzi scheme in human history. But look, again, let me go ahead and reiterate before you get mad, because I know no one says this a lot. No, everyone always says great things about Social Security. It's great. We're going to expand it, safety net, all that good stuff. I'm telling you, the bank vault is already empty. I'm the new guy that just got to be president of the bank, and I go look in there, and there's nothing there. So I'm telling you, you can't keep taking withdrawals from the bank. There's nothing there. And you're telling me, why are you taking this away? No, it's already gone. The bank has been robbed. And it's unfortunate that so many people depend on it. Maybe you depend on it to live, or your mom does. But now what you're going to be doing from here on out is there's not even the disguise of the trust fund. You're just going to be surviving on intergenerational theft. And it's not right. You don't continue a Ponzi scheme just so you can be the last guy to get paid for it, and you're just screwing other people on the way out. Someone's going to be left holding the bag. And so now all you're doing is trying to make other people hold the bag. I get it. Real people are being screwed either way. There's no way to get around it. But right now, once we get past that end of the trust fund, the only people being screwed are people my age and younger who are going to be paying in at full price, but will never be getting our full benefits. In fact, by the time we actually get there, the math will dictate that we're probably going to get less than the benefits that you're getting now. So the question is, how bad do you want to screw your kids and grandkids? Because if you want to give it to them good and hard, then just keep riding this, and let's not do any reform, and let's not listen to Parker, and let's not make some hard decisions where we might have to make some sacrifices ourselves. And the question comes, well, what if Social Security goes away or takes a significant cut, or we do your stupid libertarian dreamscape? What will happen if Social Security goes away? Well, let me make you think about it. Ask yourself, before we had Social Security in America, the first 150 years of this country, the majority of this country's history, we didn't have an old age pension system. What did the old and infirm live on before that? Because for most of American history, old people live just fine with it. There's not just horrible stories about grandma and grandpa writhing and dying under the bridge downtown because we didn't have Social Security. The problem we see here is it's hard to admit that there's no good options left. Reform is scarcely an option because we've waited so long. So your options aren't to continue Social Security indefinitely or it's cut and you're out on the street. It's going to get cut. Now, is it going to get cut under your terms? Or is it going to get cut? And if you get a 20, 25%, 30% cut in your Social Security benefits, you're going to be out on the street anyway. So as it stands, you're already relying on resources from younger generations to support you. Your choice is that you're going to have to now rely on the private voluntary donations or continue using the government to take the resources from them by force. But the situation is the same. You're still going to be relying on resources from other people, probably younger. The good news, though, is that if we do get rid of Social Security and we wipe this out, then all the workers that you're going to be depending on, because you're already depending on them now, they're all going to get about a 13% raise when Social Security stops robbing them. So if we do have to rely on private charity, well, we now have some new income to draw from. But it's really a moral story here because the morals of this are profound. Because I want you to think about, if you're a boomer, how are you going to be viewed through the lens of history? When Social Security was started, the silent generation paid in more than they took out, and they left you a giant trust fund worth billions and billions of dollars, boomers, maybe even trillions. You inherited that big trust fund, and what did you do? You spent all the money that your parents left you on yourself, all the contributions that you made on yourself, and while you're receiving it, all the contributions that are being made from my generation and younger, you're spending all that down. You're spending it all on yourself. The trillions from the previous generation, your generation, and the next generations, you've spent it all on yourself, and it's going to exhaust on your watch. And then you're just going to keep taking? Boomers, if you don't do something about this and make some hard decisions and eat some of this, you will not be looked upon fondly by future generations. You will be, you call the millennials and the Gen Zs entitled and spoiled. You guys will be the most entitled, spoiled, thieving generation in American history. Now, that's not guaranteed. You can still do something about it. You can still make some changes and you can still save your good name. But it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be pretty. And you're going to have to make some sacrifices instead of just making everybody else. And that's what I'm talking about. Maybe we should privatize it. Maybe we should come up with an alternative program. Maybe we shouldn't do any program at all. Maybe we should do 50 different programs at the state level. Maybe we should retire entirely on private charity, rely entirely on private charity. That's one of the reasons why Christians became accepted by the Roman Empire. We could persecute these guys, but all they do is heal the sick and feed the poor. They take care of infirmed old people, and they set up poor houses and soup kitchens, and they seem like pretty good guys. We could just go back to doing that. Or are you not willing to give up any time or effort, or you don't trust your fellow Americans to be charitable enough to take care of you? Is that the real problem? 800-288-9227. I know these are all tough questions. This is complex. There's not easy answers, and you can't be reductive about it. I know I'm just saying some really unpopular things because it's going to hit you in about 5 or 6 years. And I'm not going to be here saying I told you so. I'm still going to be saying, how can we pick up these pieces? 800-288-9227. Chicago is coming to WinStar World Casino and Resort March 29th. They're one of our contests here. So if you want to win a pair of tickets to see Chicago, text the word Chicago to 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Happy Friday. It's the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. Yeah, happy Friday. I have the best weekend plans coming up. You know what they are? Nothing. Like, how often, especially when you have 4 kids, how often do you have, like, nothing to do one weekend? This is, like, the first time since, I think, the first weekend of August, where I think I've had just, like, nothing to do. And I'm so looking forward to nothing. But I stepped on an antpile. If you're just joining us, I have dared to admit that Social Security is on an unsustainable path. And just like all failed socialism programs before it, it was doomed the second it was written into law. Defined benefit programs are just a mathematic impossibility on a long enough time scale. So a bunch of people think I'm a bad guy for admitting it because they rely on it. They think it's important. And they don't want to lose their checks. I get it. That doesn't make socialism okay. What do you think? 800-288-9227. John in Alba, you're on WBAP. What do you think, sir? John, you with me? I guess not. I'll put him on hold, see if he picks up. Yeah. Paul in Prosper, you're on WBAP. Your thoughts?
Gee, James, your solution sounds a little self-centered to me. Cut the fixed income of elders so that you can get a break and not have to pay into the system any longer.
Okay.
The problem is that money is mine. I've been paying into it all my life. The government owes it to me. It's not the government's money. Now, I do agree completely with you on the premise of the whole system. But you've got the legacy of people who've been paying in, and they need that money back. That's their money.
Okay, so need is never an acceptable excuse for theft. It's not your money that's coming out. You've already spent the trust fund your parents left you, the trust fund that contributions that you made, and the money that I've been paying in for the last 30-something years. Y'all have already spent that on yourself, too. So it is truly a Ponzi scheme. As soon as this runs out, you will be exclusively paying out current beneficiaries with the payments that are coming from current workers. That is just a redistribution of wealth. It is nothing more than it's worse than a Ponzi scheme because it's involuntary and we're all forced into it. And your cuts are coming anyway. You understand? I'm not cutting your benefits. I'm not taking anything from you. I'm just trying to prevent you from stealing from other people just because that's what you've become accustomed to. And it's a hard truth to tell people, and it's not fun to tell you, but it's collapsing anyway. And so all you're asking for is, okay, I know I'm screwing the next generations, but can I continue screwing them harder until at least I die, and then I'll just leave them holding the bag? That's what you're asking.
That's a false premise.
How?
That somehow it's been spent on. I haven't spent it on me. Now you can blame the government.
Yes, I am blaming the government. I am not blaming Paul and Prosper. This is not your fault.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that. There are other solutions. You got to look at other solutions. It's not a one or two options, and if somebody's going to end up without a seat to sit in at the end of the song here. So I like that you recognize what it was.
What happened? Did you hit mute or something? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, I just lost you for about 5 seconds. Repeat that last line.
I don't like that you're looking at a solution that's going to hurt somebody. That may or may not be.
But it's inevitable.
No.
It's inevitable someone's getting hurt. As it stands already, I'm getting hurt because you got to pay. You paid your full taxes in this whole time, and now you're getting your full benefit out of it. I am never going to get my full benefit out of it, even though I paid in my full contribution amount. So I'm already getting screwed, and people below me are getting screwed even worse. So there's no perfect solution. Someone's getting screwed here. And
how do I know that? Yeah. What solutions have you considered to the problem? There are many different ways to opt.
Can I throw some at you? Because I want to take some more calls. Okay, so all you got to do is think about, well, what did old people do before Social Security came around? Well, there's a lot of approaches to that. The main one is you moved in with one of your kids because you lived on some 80-acre spread and generations stayed in the same house for like a couple hundred years. You can move back in with your kids. You could get a roommate. You could save your own money. You could buy your own annuities with your own private investments. You could rely on private voluntary donations from the same people who you're forcibly stealing from now. You could rely on the church. You could get a part-time job. You could get some job where you're just sitting at a desk, but you answer customer service calls. Maybe you have to work a little bit longer. But yeah, there's a ton of other solutions out there to where we can stop this intergenerational Ponzi scheme.
No, there are other solutions as well. You can look at private investment programs.
Yeah. Paul, I appreciate the call. I just want to get some more people in here, okay?
Gotcha. I understand.
Thank you, sir. Jack in Arlington, you're on WBAP. Your thoughts?
I think what we should do is get the money from all the people who actually stole the money, which that would be the Ponzi scheme was created by the politicians. So we should drain all of their retirement funds, and they don't get to have one at all, okay? And we'll take all that money out of their coffers, and then also we'll look into all this money that they've been making illegally with their little
okay, so you want to punish
scheme.
the people who just let this go by the wayside. I only feel so bad for the politicians because anytime a politician brought up Social Security, they would get run out of town with torches and pitchforks. We demanded Social Security keep this Ponzi scheme going as long as possible because no one wants to do the ugly thing of telling someone your benefits are going to have to be cut, or because now you're just screwing over younger generations.
So let's just cut out the politicians' retirement fund.
That's not going to fund it. That's a fun thing to say, and it would be nice to punish these people, but we're still going to have to take care of grandma, and that's not going to cut it.
On the bandwagon with conventions of states in and make it happen.
Now we're talking. There you go. Now we're having a grown-up conversation. Thank you. Not just you're trying to kill grandma or you don't know what you're talking about. Thank you, Jack in Arlington. All right, I'm going to step aside. We got to take a quick break, but we'll continue with this. 800-288-9227. Social Security is it's about to crash. What do we do now? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I got a comment here on Facebook from Leslie. It says MCP and then the equal sign, male chauvinist pig. Well, if that's your complaint, you're going to have to be more specific. That applies to like most of the segments I've done today. Someone would be offended by it. My next guest is going to help make sense of some of the crazy legal stuff that's going on in the world today. Jeremy Rosenthal's back on from TexasDefenseFirm.com, and we had some legal breaking news. Since the show started, one of the charges has been dismissed against Daniel Penny. Now, of the two big charges, this was the more severe. So, manslaughter is what's left, or negligent homicide is what's left?
Yeah, criminally negligent homicide is what's left. And I'll tell you, James, that this thing is nuts. Trial gets weird, and this is weird. It's weird.
Explain weird.
Okay, it's so I don't know that I've ever seen this quite happen in the case, and it is because I think the jury wrote a very specific note. The jury doesn't have to tell you anything about their deliberations. If they're deadlocked, they don't have to tell you why or on what charge. This jury told the judge, we can't figure out charge number one. And the prosecution says, well, in that instance, we'll just dismiss that one.
But see, that sounds weird to me, because usually the defense asks for charges to be dropped, but we had the prosecution asking for a charge to be dropped. Is that weird, or is that just me because I don't know better?
It's strategy. It's strategy because basically the jury, in essence, was saying we can't figure out whether or not on the greater charge, we can't figure this out. So the prosecution basically, they huddled and they said, look, okay, so the jury can't figure out charge number one. We either hang this jury, we don't get anything at all, or it's an overall acquittal. Let's just cut bait. Let's cut this one charge, and hopefully they convict him on the second one, and we're done. They made that strategic calculation, but they only did it because the jury was very specific, which the jury didn't have to be. So this is pure happenstance. And yeah, I mean, you just don't. The jury doesn't have to tell you in that level of detail, and so jurors don't know a lot of times what they can and can't communicate with the parties in the courts. So that's what's really odd about this situation. This is, I mean, look, this trial, I mean, very, very close call. There is some really, really bad evidence for this guy, and there's some really good evidence too that could acquit him. This thing was anybody's game, but this was not. I didn't have this one on my bingo card.
So if they were only confused or deadlocked about that one charge, that's taken off the table, why don't we have a verdict yet? Why don't we have the results?
Judge sent him home.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. Judge, from what I've read, it sounds like the judge sent him home, and then either right around the same time, judge sent him home for the day, or judge sent him home and then they dismissed it. So I would think that you're probably going to get something on Monday, but this is also a pretty decent appellate motion at this point for the defense, because the defense, you can object to a dismissal because they were what the defense was hoping here. What they wanted acquittal on everything, and now that the case has been sliced in half, now they're afraid of what you would call a compromised verdict. Now they're afraid of, okay, we want to split the baby here. We're not going to convict you of the really bad thing. We're going to convict you of the lesser thing, and there maybe everybody's happy.
Well, that's kind of what I was assuming. There is, if the more difficult charge has gone by the wayside, then they agreed on these other ones, and it's probably not in Daniel Penny's favor.
No, I think that's right, and I think that's why Daniel Penny's lawyers objected to it. And yeah, this is, again, it is strictly strategical, and the judge didn't have to grant it. I don't think the judge has to, in the middle of trial, allow you to cut half the charges. It's what you would call discretionary, meaning the judge can do it or not do it. There are times, believe it or not, it's very rare, but there are times as a defense lawyer in Texas where you ought to oppose the prosecution dismissing a case. Mm-hmm. The reason is because you want to have jeopardy, what we call jeopardy attach, and then they can never come back. And so a lot of times when you dismiss before that for some strategic reason, you're at a loss. Now here, jeopardy had already attached in this New York case. It's already in front of the jury, so that reckless charge, the higher charge, that the manslaughter, that thing is gone. That jeopardy is barred there. He will never be able to be prosecuted for anything greater than the criminally negligent charge.
You know, I like for you to come on when there's not some pressing, controversial legal case in front of our face, and we'll just have a good discussion about like the general welfare clause or something like that, because I know you're itching to do that one day. Where do they find you online? TexasDefenseFirm.com?
TexasDefenseFirm.com, when it gets weird. That's right.
All right, thank you very much. There he is, Jeremy Rosenthal, my legal buddy, TexasDefenseFirm.com. All right, coming up next, we're going to do Name That Artist for 2 tickets to see Bryan Adams. He's going to be at WinStar World Casino March 2nd. Let's go ahead and play the montage now. And if you know all 10 of these songs, you're going to get out a pen and paper, notepad on your file or whatever. You're going to call the phone number. And then when we play it again, the next segment, you're going to write them all down. Or you can write them all down now if you're a go-getter. All right, so here's the montage for Name That Artist. Go. All right, so that's your montage. If you recognize those 10 artists or close enough, go and get out pen and paper, and you need to call right now, 800-288-9227, because someone's going to get 2 tickets to see Bryan Adams at the WinStar World Casino March 2nd. You can get tickets now at winstar.com or call 800-288-9227, because we're playing Name That Artist next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, happy Friday. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP. Now on FM at 93.3. How you doing? How about for Name That Artist, if you can guess who did the Dance Party with Beyonce song, you're not going to get any tickets or anything, but you'll get bonus points.
Is it a dance party with Beyonce? Beyonce. Dance party with Beyonce. Dance party with Beyonce.
We should do this. We'll say who made this weird viral song, and we'll give people time to look it up. And whoever called, we're not doing that today. I'm just spitballing in real time. I can tell by Garrett's face he doesn't like that idea. Fine, we won't do it. All right, so we're just doing the traditional old school version of Name That Artist, and we're playing today for Bryan Adams tickets. 2 tickets to see Bryan Adams at WinStar World Casino March 2nd. Tickets now at winstar.com. But for you guys on hold, do you have your pen and paper out or notepad on your file and you're ready on your phone and you're ready to type all this in? All right, here's the montage for today's Name That Artist. Look at him with the deep cuts over there. All right, this is a tough one. Someone's earning these. Let's start off with Jennifer. Jennifer and Irving, you ready for Name That Artist? You got all 10 ready to go?
Well, I don't quite have 10, but I've got the majority of them, if that helps.
Hold. Do not hang up. Just hold. I feel like going to Brian first now. They called it about the same time. Brian in Dallas, do you have all 10 ready to go? Can you just rip them?
No, I can't rip them. It's too hard, but I got 3 of them.
All right. I bet you Jennifer has more than 3. All right. I'm glad you hung on. Let's hear what you got.
Okay. I've got Howard Jones, Everlasting Love.
Yes.
And I've got Phil Collins, Can't Hurry Love.
Don't need the title, just the artist, but thank you. I appreciate the effort.
Okay. Mariah Carey.
Yes.
Next one, Whitesnake.
You remember that video, don't you?
Uh-huh. Next one, Jackson 5.
Yes.
And the next one, Tina Turner.
No.
Oh.
Keep going.
Okay. Next one, Elton John.
Okay.
Man, I don't have the next one.
Yeah, I didn't get that one either. What's after that?
Okay, after that, Hall & Oates.
And then?
The last one was a toughie.
Yeah, it's a terrible song by a woman who has nothing but terrible songs.
Okay, good.
Well, she has a name.
Well, that's just not my era.
Okay, hang on a second. Don't hang up again. Brian, can you get any of the ones that she missed?
I think there's a John Lennon.
Okay, there is a John Lennon in there. That's all you got?
She's got me beat.
All right.
That's all I got. She's got me beat. I had some of them she named, but she's got me beat.
All right. I appreciate the chivalry there, Brian. The honor system works on the James Show because we're decent human beings. I appreciate that. Jennifer, you're our big winner, or our kind of reluctant winner here. We have to give them to somebody, but you're going to get the 2 tickets to see Bryan Adams, WinStar World Casino and Resort, March 2nd For the rest of us, we can get tickets now at winstar.com, but Jennifer's going to hold on so Garrett can get your information, and we just email you the tickets these days. It's 2024. All right, stay put. More James Show coming up. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I got a couple stories left I'm going to squeeze in before you go start your weekend. Your weekend starts in about 17 minutes. I'm keeping an eye on it for you. I got one bad story and one good story. One of them's a bad story. There's a guy who, in Grapevine, doing indecent things. He had some child material on his phone. Also, there was a hidden camera involved, so he's spying on some people in their intimate moments. Here's the interesting part. This is a guy who has been on the divide of something I talked about yesterday. There was another teacher in Houston that had got in trouble for like 6 different kids, and I was pointing out isn't it interesting how some people go out and they'll protest outside a church when there is a sexual abuse case there, but they won't ever protest outside a daycare center or outside of a public school or even a private school or anywhere else the child abuse happens, just outside of the church. And I'm just kind of pointing out how there's an inherent anti-Christian bias, and it's not just in the protesters, it's also sort of in the reporting, and I think I have a great example of it because this guy in Grapevine, he is both a substitute teacher in the local school district and also an associate pastor at a local church. Now, associate pastor doesn't mean he does the sermon on Sunday. It doesn't even mean he's the backup. I went and looked at this church's website. They have like 40-something people on staff between their elders and their actual paid staff and their associate pastors and youth pastors and the secretary and all this stuff. So he's not like a leader in the church. He's just an employee of the church. So when I point out that, okay, while the sexual abuse that happens at church is awful and totally condemned with no equivocation, I marvel how there's like 100 times as much sexual abuse going on in public schools with not 100 times the smoke that comes with it. Right? Some people want to defend their public schools, and some people want to besmirch the good name of the Christian community. So this is a great litmus test. How would the media report on a guy who is suspected of doing naughty things with kids, who's both a substitute teacher and on the staff of a church? I don't even know if he's paid. It just says associate pastor. Here's the headline, just in case you were wondering. North Texas pastor charged with child pornography possession, police say. He got a promotion. Not only was his affiliation with the church highlighted, they kind of left out the important part to where it makes you think the guy that runs the church is another kitty diddler. Ooh, that's so dastardly. It's so biased. It's so immoral. It's disgusting. What's wrong with you people? Anyway, the other story, that's the ugly story. And it's ugly because of what happened, but also ugly in the way it's reported. I'm just tired of the anti-Christian bigotry. And no one wants to say anything. No one defends them. I don't know why. Because it's not cool? Because it doesn't fit the narrative? Fine, I don't fit the narrative. Don't at me. But the other story is hilarious. I can't wrap my head around this one either. Saw the headline. I had to dig into this, and it just keeps getting worse. Here's the headline from KRIS TV down in South Texas, Corpus area. Traces of fentanyl and other drugs found in bottlenose dolphins in the Gulf of Mexico. They're having a party in the Gulf of Mexico, apparently. So I was trying to figure this one out. What's going on? Did a dolphin jump on a Tony Montana's boat, start huffing lines? Is that what's going on? How does a dolphin even get fentanyl? How does a dolphin do drugs? Have they just spilt so many drugs coming from Colombia through the Gulf of Mexico up into our area? They've just dropped so damn many drugs that if you just run around and swim in the Gulf of Mexico, you too can have fentanyl in your system. Did somebody give the dolphin drugs? And I don't know, hit it with like a dart, or maybe they passed them a joint that was laced with fentanyl. Like how does a dolphin do drugs? And so I had to dig into this story. I'm not content learning, because if they are having like dolphin parties out there, I don't know what goes on in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, I've been to Galveston, I've been to Corpus a couple times. I didn't know it was a party scene. So how did they get this? They just go to like the latest dolphin party? They're like, can I get a strand of your hair? Is it a pee test? They get the dolphin to pee in a cup? I know this sounds dumb. The truth is pretty dumb too. So there's a routine boating survey, whatever that means. Some goofs were in the Gulf of Mexico, and they came across, these university researchers came across a dead dolphin. Now, they weren't out there on dead dolphin patrol. They were just doing a routine boating survey. So just running around in a boat looking at stuff. That's what I gathered from that. They found a dead dolphin. They stored it in their lab. And then 2 years later, they began to use that carcass for hormone blubber analysis. And so they were like, okay, well, we've got this new machine that you plug in some tissue and it can tell you what all's in the system. So they're like, well, what about that old dolphin we got in the fridge from 2 years ago? What world are these people living in? You have like a 2-year-old dolphin carcass sitting in your fridge? Because these people do. And they're testing it for drugs. I'm missing so many steps of this story. Marine biologist, what are you doing? This isn't taxpayer money, is it? I'm not funding this idiocy, am I? So they go and they got their new tool and they want to test it out. And so, and when they explain themselves, they sound even dumber. It's like a below average intelligent person saying what they think an intelligent person would say. When I started this project, we did an untargeted study of the blubber where we put it in a very fancy instrument that's able to resolve all the compounds inside. We were looking for what we actually found. This is a doctoral student. Can you just go get a real job? Or because I don't need to my taxpayer dollars going to get some college kid to test all the dolphins for drugs. So when they work, a very fancy instrument, you don't know what the name for it is. It's not like a spectrometer, very fancy instrument. Thank you. This is what your PhD is it for. So they were able to identify more than 3,000 different compounds inside this one dolphin. And within those compounds were several pharmaceutical drugs. They found the fentanyl, they found sedatives, they found relaxants, and they found fentanyl. Now, I don't know if that blows your mind as much as it blows my mind. Dolphins should not have more drugs in their system than me. Can we just say that? I'm a human being with disposable income that can walk to a pharmacy. How does he get all those drugs in his system? See, now I'm thinking you guys are just making something up. Because remember how everything, all the false positives that came back with the COVID test? I think we got some false positives out there. Unless we have the Charlie Sheen of the porpoise world, there's no way some dolphins just run around doing uppers and downers and someone mixed in some fentanyl with his meth. And I mean, what is this, the George Floyd of dolphins over there? And so I can't even begin to think what the explanation is. Like, how does one dolphin get this many drugs in its system? This is like Hunter Biden doesn't have this much drugs in the system. That's probably a bad example. He probably does. But what happens if you eat this dolphin? Because I'd eat a dolphin. Is it legal? It's legal to eat dolphins, right? They're mammals. Who cares? They have enough of a personality. Anyway, if you put a dolphin in front of me, I'd eat it. But what would happen if you eat the drug dolphin? Like Cocaine Bear, but drug dolphin, fentanyl dolphin. It's going to be a really lame sequel. We should make all of them, though. We'll do fentanyl dolphin. We already have Cocaine Bear. We can do like meth chicken. It'll be a whole series. But I'm just blown away. I'm blown away that there's a dolphin that has all these drugs in its system. I'm blown away that someone pulled up a dolphin carcass in their boat and put it in the fridge for 2 years before they tested it for drugs. Why would you even test a dolphin for drugs? Like, I swear to God, I hate it when I feel like I'm missing so many steps to the story. But, these are important people getting their PhD in marine biology, and I'm just a guy who talks on the radio for a living. So what do I know? Apparently not much. I am kind of jealous, though. All right, the AC/DC Power Up Tour comes to AT&T Stadium April 14th. With special guest The Pretty Reckless. For more information and tickets, visit livenation.com, or you can text POWER to 800-288-9227, POWER to 800-288-9227. But here's a little secret of the pros. All these contests I tell you about, if you go to WBAP.com, we have a contest page, and you can sign up for a whole bunch of other contests. So if you're like, I'd like to win tickets, but I'm not a big AC/DC fan, keep an eye on our website. We put stuff out there. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, all the things. Because, man, we give these things away right and left. And every day, every time we give something away for the last 22 years of my radio career, every person says, I didn't expect to win. I've never won anything before. Dude, legally speaking, we got to give it away to somebody. I'd rather it be for you. All right, coming up next, this fledgling young reporter, I like the cut of his jib, Troy Aikman's got a report for you. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.